Hey guys, welcome back. We got a little something different today. We're going to review this Best Arc welder that Best Arc has kindly given to us to actually review and give our opinions on how well we think it performs. And in that case, we're going to just jump into it. Let you guys see, one, what all comes in the box, what's all included, but also how do you use it, how well does it perform, and how much does it cost? So we'll go through all that here in this video real quick, but jumping into it, let's see what all comes in this setup. Again, it's the Best Arc. It is the MiG 145. It's the 7th generation, and it's 110 volt only. Now there's a MiG 145-8 that is also able to do 110, 220, and it's also able to do gas as well. This unit is not set up for that. So this one's gonna be more kind of geared towards the guys who are interested in MiG welding, or if they're interested in stick welding, although it does do lift TIG. So what comes with it in the box? MiG 145 welder with torch. It has the earth clamp and cable, stick holder and cable. It does come with 0.040 flux core wire. It is on the bigger side for flux core wire, preferably 0.030 or 0.035 or what most people use, but we'll give that a run. And that also comes with multiple wire feed rollers, which adapt to the size of that gauge. And it also comes with a shoulder strap. Here's the shoulder strap. Nothing too fancy. It's a nice nylon strap. If you want to carry, it loops through the front here and then through the back of the machine there. You do have your lead here, and it is set up as a gas unit, but again, there's no gas to it, and it is set up again with the 0.040 tip, and you can weld with or without this on, right? Because this is going to be a flux core wire that's going to be coming out of here. Now you can take a look at the gun. The gun is all plastic. The function seems, pretty much on par. I do like that they give you a hook on the back so you could hook it onto your table or whatever you guys like to hook onto. But all in all, the lead is fairly decent. I will note here too, when it's hard to tell in this video, but this lead is about 5 to 6 feet long. So from tip to machine is about 6 feet in length. I do wish that they would make that longer. That is too short in my opinion for these for a setup like this. But I understand it. They're trying to appeal to the masses and get as much product out as they can. So there are some trade-offs. That being said, we also have the negative lead, which as far as clamps, I'll actually give them some credit on this. This clamp is actually fairly decent. It's double side, it is copper, and it does a pretty decent job routing it as well. The gauge might be slightly on the thinner side of what I'd like to see, but all in all, not bad. It's actually pretty decent. And then how it ties in is with this, let's call these the Euro style clamps. Basically you put it in, you give it a little twist lock, holds it in place for your entry-level welders, which, let's be honest, this is going to be your entry-level welder. These are pretty common out there, so not a bad deal with that. Next up is going to be your stick. This one's going to be, once again, same type of locking setup. It seems to be par for the course. It's kind of a cheaper plastic. That might be ABS plastic there. And you basically place your electrode on there if you're doing stick, and you could run a couple passes. So it has a good spring to it. It does also have the additional angles, right? They're straight on, and they'll be running 45 at either angle inside there. Hopefully you guys can see and make that out inside. But it's, I've seen better with deeper grooves. So I'd say it's about average for, again, an entry-level welder. And then of course you have your multiple tips and your little spool wheels, right? These all have little teeth inside them that allow it to grab onto the wire and move it. And so 0.08 as well as 0.9. 0.08 is going to be in standard or SAE, 0.030 and 0.035 for the 0.9. And you got tips for each. There is an extra 0.040 or 1.0, which is what comes with it standard. So I already have a tip, but it has a backup tip in here as well. So well worth noting. You do get a tool. This tool is usable for any of the bolts, and or if you're tightening the tip, use that in right there for tightening the tip onto your gun. I can actually show you guys real quick. Although they don't really spell it out in the instructions, but it's always nice to know that if you're putting your tip on, it's really easy to tighten and loosen, so you have to grab an extra set of pliers. Ideally, I think I'm gonna plan to put a magnet on this. You can just slap this on the side of your box and leave it there for future use. Now, what else comes in there? Obviously, you get an instruction manual. It goes through several items about the setup, which is important to read about. Although it probably could go a little bit deeper, I think, in some of the instructions on how to use this machine. And then, finally, you also have your spool. Now, this is the smaller spools. These aren't the professional lines that are much larger. And it also sits horizontally inside of the machine. We'll give you guys a little quick view here. But that is the inside. It's actually really easy to open. I do like the clasp on the side, and I do like how when it opens up, it stays mounted to the machine. Some units have the pieces separate, right? The hood comes off, and you lose it, you damage it. It's just a terrible idea that way. It is nice that they have done it this way, where you can keep it all in one unit and place this on here. And we'll go through the installation of this as well. Here in just a second. We'll install it, let you guys see how this thing sets up. I did want to talk about a couple key features. We did go through a lot of this on the box, the accessories that come with it, but also the description, so you guys have a better idea. Some key items that are definitely worth covering here is I appreciate the fact that this is a 60% duty cycle welder. Other entry-level machines like this are rated at typically 20, 30, 40% duty cycle. And what that means for you guys who don't understand duty cycle is when you're running this machine for 10 minutes, you could run it for 6 minutes straight and then give it 4 minutes of rest. So for every 10 minutes, how much of that cycle can you be running the machine? I'll be honest, Harbor Freight has a very similar unit to this, even in price range, and it's going to be a 30% duty cycle machine. So big advantage here. This is getting up to pro level status for duty cycle. And your obviously frequencies, wire size, we talked about that. Obviously this is a flux core welding wire that comes with it. It does have an LED screen display and synergic control, and we'll dive into that. But basically the idea behind this synergy that they have here, and it's kind of like a new thing that's coming out, is the synergy allows the machine to adapt to how much weld you're placing down, and it's basically using a set of algorithms to speed up or slow down your wire feed dependent upon voltage and amperage. So we'll give it a try. I have not tried Synergy electronic control, but we'll give it a try here when we're running this machine. And then also you have the 2T, 4T touch trigger control. I'll show you how it's set up on there. We'll dive in here now and take a look at a little bit of setup of the spool, and we'll let you guys also see how it runs when you turn it on and how to set up the controls here next. Alright guys, so here is your wire. It is the self-shielded flux core wire, and again it is the 1mm or 0.04. There's a fair amount on here. Let's actually give a decent amount for you. And what's going to be key is when you take this apart, you're going to unscrew here to take this cap off. So you got a washer, spring. We'll put it over here. All right, we have all that. We're going to place it on top of this spool. Now you have to release this. No, guys, this is spring loaded. It's going to want to unspin and make a mess of your life. So don't let it. All right, there's the spring. You also want to have a nice straight piece. You don't want to have a bent piece like this. So give it a nice little cut. And now this is also directional. You cannot put this in facing this way because it's always going to be pulling counterclockwise off of the machine. So place it down on top like so, holding onto your lead. Keep it taut. Don't let it go loose. Now you're going to want to open up the machine here, loosen this a little bit, pull this lever up and over, and then slide out. This is going to allow you to gain some access. Now that we have this on top, keeping tension is going to be hard. This is going to want to unspool. So come back, place this spring-loaded tensioner on the top, tighten your wing nut down. All right, good to go. Okay, we'll take this and straighten it out just a little bit. Take whatever curve might be in there, and then place it inside the feed. Slowly take it and feed it through. You'll see it coming through the hole here. And then you're going to press it back through the opposing hole that goes right into the gun. So there's a little hole on the opposite side. Run it in. And actually, before we get too far, I'm going to show you real quick what's inside of here. this is where your wheel is, your feed wheel. So this is already set up for 1.0, which is exactly what we want. So put it back down inside there. Put this cap back on. It just goes on and turns clockwise, a quarter turn, and then now we'll just feed in this wire till it's in the hole. Take it, close it back up. This clamps back down on the wire. And you can tighten this to increase the tension on the wire if you want, right, if it's not going through like it should. And then when you're done, tap the feed wire. Of course, you need to turn it on. There is a rocker switch on the back, simple rocker switch. Give it a flick. Machine takes about 5-10 seconds to start up. Fan kicks on. Now you start to feed. Now, before we get too far, I want to go back to the gun and show you. I typically like to take off the end right here, so that way when the wire comes through, it doesn't get stuck. That happens, generally tends to happen. So we'll push, either push the trigger and feed it through. You see it feeding slowly, or you hit the feed wire button, which is a really nice feature that they have here. Right, so you're not sitting there forever waiting for it to speed up, or trying to turn the speed on the right hand side here to really speed it up. Right? You just leave it at your natural setting, come back here, hit the feed wire, and it goes nice and quick running that wire through. So that is a nice feature, because most setups do not have that. So we'll feed it. Should just take a couple seconds to feed itself through. And voila, came all the way through. Put your tip back on, give it a good tightening. Use your little tool here if you like. And all set to go. Now if you want your nozzle back on, you can easily throw that back on and run it how you like. Alright guys, so after you have the spool all installed here, you've obviously run it through the line. You've got your line coming out here, and you've also got your negative, right? You've already plugged it in here. And it's also worth noting here up top that there is a kind of, there's actually two stickers here. One that shows kind of the breakdown of how to go in and make adjustments to the spool. And then it also gives you the ability to see what kind of parts breakdown is there. Then above it, you have this chart, and I'm not going to go through the whole chart for you guys, but the chart allows you to see what types of steel, flux core, which would be this row here, and then you can also do stainless or your electrode as well. So it shows you, based on the voltage that you're running and the amperage, how thick of gauge of material you can run. In the case of this welder, we'll test and we'll see whether or not it can go up as high as they claim on here, which is, it's about 3/8, maybe 1/4 of an inch. If you're pushing it, you might be able to. But remember, this system is a 110. If you had the 220 version, I believe you could probably reach those higher, thicker gauges and thicknesses of steel that you'll be working on. So we'll take a look here at the display. So it is an LCD display. You could see all these buttons here. There's still a turn knob. For MIGs of past, there's usually multiple either switches, toggle switches, or adjustable knobs. This obviously has an adjustable knob here that changes the voltage and amperage based off of its movement. Now let's start with the button up top here on the left. This is going to determine your trigger settings. So right now it's at 2T. As you see there, press it again, it goes to 4T. And what that allows you to do is, as you're using the gun, I'll show you guys here. As you press the button once, right, that's going to allow the wire to come out. We'll just show you guys here real quick. Right, you press it, out comes the wire. Now, if you do the same thing with 4T, once you press the button here, it's going to want to keep going until you release and then press again. So click it and release, it goes, and then it'll keep running until you click it again. And the main idea for that, guys, is either fatigue, right? If you're working on a long weld, or you're working many hours with a machine like this, you're going to want to have the ability to let the machine do the work while you just concentrate on the puddle that you're running on the material. And the other thing is whether, if you're older and, your fingers bother you, it helps you to be able to relax and just let the machine, again, do the work. So I'll show you real quick. 4T, give it a little quick click here, and We'll actually zoom out so you guys can see a little bit. So we'll click it. So it's going. Click it again, it stops. So real simple process. And it's nice to have that functionality-wise on this machine. Okay, so the next button we're going to look at here is going to be the gauge of wire that's down here on the left hand. So as you click this button, you shift between 0.030, 0.035, and 0.040. In millimeters, 040 is going to be 1.0, that's going to be 0.8 millimeters, and 0.9 millimeters. So obviously the gauge that they gave us is a 0.040, so we'll leave it at that marking. But you can go smaller with the gauge of material that you want to run. And then over to the right-hand side here, you're going to see that you have your option between MIG, TIG, and MMA. I don't have a TIG set up for this, nor is there any setup for argon. There's no actual way to tie it into this on the back, so that's more kind of based for the line above this. So TIG, and then MMA, which is going to be your stick weld. So you run stick, put it in that selection. So we'll go back to MIG. You see up here it's highlighting 110 volt. The version up from this that has 220 would then highlight whether or not you're plugged into 110, 220. That way it knows the voltage you're running on. And then it has the light here. You can see that's saying the fan is operational. And this fan does kick on and kick off depending on workload. So it is nice that it's not running all the time, and that it's actually giving you some feedback on whether or not you're, getting up there on the duty cycle. And as you can see down here, there's a little Synergic wording here. It's actually kind of a neat feature. I actually haven't owned a Synergy-based welder, but the idea is based on your voltage and amperage and the draw that the computer inside here is seeing as you're welding on material, it's going to adjust wire speed. Ultimately, even I think voltage and amperage based on what it's seeing. So it's attempting to give you the appropriate amount of wire while also maximizing the heat and penetration. So it is a neat system, and I want to see how it works as we test it out here today. So anyways, you can roll down. The lowest voltage you're going to see is 16.5 at 50 amps, and then you can scroll it all the way up to 20.7 volts at 135 amps. So that's the max you're going to get out on 110. And if you push the button here, that takes you out of the Synergy selection, and you can actually go up or down in units based off of the voltage. So you could attempt to control the wire speed based off of kind of an algorithm, right? Saying, hey, give me a little bit more or a little bit less based on the given voltage. So you could actually really fine-tune this to your need. And then if you don't use it, it obviously kicks back to Synergy. So definitely nice. It's got Synergy, but it's also got the ability to let you override it to some regard. That's all of the settings you have here to go through. All right, next up we're going to go in and we're going to take a look at actually using this on some pieces of material so you guys can see how well it welds. So I want to try running a pass here and see how well that works. Now, I hope you guys can see that, but that actually looks really nice and clean. I'll actually pick it up here so you guys see real quick. Well, that pass actually went by quite well. It's actually really clean. It didn't, I mean, it is flux core, so flux core's going to spatter at you, but all in all, that actually lays down really nice, really even, and it didn't go too fast. And I'm actually on a lower voltage setting, so let's do another pass. I'm going to bump it up just a little bit. think you guys could see that well, but guys, that actually lays down quite nice. Of course, I got a little scalping in there. I could probably do a little bit better job angling and leading the puddle. But guys, for a MIG welder with a flux core, that lays down really nice, and it made a really manageable puddle that I could run across here. And you know, it wasn't too fast, it wasn't too hot, it wasn't too cold. I mean, it did a really good job flowing, and I'm actually quite surprised for how budget friendly this welder is, that I could get something to come out as good as that. So actually, I'm really impressed. And for the price, I mean, I might as well talk price a little bit on this. Guys, this setup, this welder on Amazon currently costs $129 for the whole thing. I've never known these welders to cost this much. I know Harbor Freight has one that's kind of similar. There are a couple other manufacturers, but with this amount of control that you have with the welder, I think that's amazing that they could get something so small. I mean, this thing weighs 13 pounds. It's 14 inches long. Actually, I'll zoom out so you guys can see what I'm talking about. It's 14 inches long, right? By 9.5 inches high and 6 inches wide. So guys, it's a super compact, portable, easy to pick up and run around with unit. And that pricing is just amazing. And I'm surprised at how well it actually works. Let's go ahead. We'll try to do another pass down here. I'm going to bring it, cool it down a little bit. I think it maybe to 17 volts. And I want to just follow this existing weld along the bottom of it and kind of see how well she does. So let's go ahead. We'll give it a shot. Alright guys, so there is that weld. You can see how it laid down there so nicely. I mean, I'm not the best welder by any means, but this machine has done a great job allowing the material to flow nicely. And this wasn't even the best cleaned manifold. Let's give it a good scratch, clean, and it's going quite nicely. Like, that flux core does a good job cleaning it up and adhering, moving the puddle. It's better than the one I actually have here in my shop. Granted, I mean, I have a unit that's quite a bit older than this one, but this one in itself has done a much better job. Much easier to flow, easy to use. Color me impressed. This is a very good welder for the price. Well guys, that about wraps it up. This is, I mean, I could go on to do more material, and maybe I'll do another video. I don't want to make this one too long as it is. I just kind of wanted to show what is in this box, what's all included, what type of welder is it, how good is it, specifications, and we went through all that, as well as we tried it on a couple scrap pieces of metal. So I'll do some more testing with this. Ideally, I'll put some more videos out there for you guys to see and see for yourself if this is something that you like. But for $129 at the size that it is, for doing basically flux core MIG and be able to do stick welding, this is a nice compact unit. Now, it does have its little idiosyncrasies I don't love. This lead could be much longer for the stick. I mean, at 5 feet, 6 feet is too short. And I think it'd be nice to have maybe some improvements as far as the push buttons. I think these are going to wear out over time, especially if you have gritty fingers touching on this to try to get it tied in. That could be a little bit better. And maybe some of the plastics that are on here in themselves could probably be a little bit better. But other than that, for the price range that it is, it's a solid unit, guys. So I'd love to hear your impressions. Do you like something like this? Is this something you guys would use in your shop? Or is there another manufacturer that you guys like in this price range? Because granted, the Lincolns, the Millers, whole nother ball field. But for the majority of you guys who are shade tree mechanics, do-it-yourselfers, working at your house, working on small jobs, or just trying to figure out how to get into welding, you cannot get hurt by this, and this is going to make it easy for you to learn how to weld if you don't know how to already. This takes all the guesswork out of it. You basically got to know if it's thick or thin, somewhere in between, and you play with that knob and you'll get there. So great tool. I'm glad to see the industry go in this direction with these types of welders. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys soon.